Camaraderie for American Crime, Season 2, Episode 3. And wow, guys, another really great episode, but a very dark one. I mean, this show, it just seems like every week is going to get very hard to watch. And I want to talk about something that some people have been complaining about. And I guess last year, and I didn't see last season, but so I can't really give my thoughts on this, but I am going to bring it up because last season, most people were very disappointed because they didn't actually say who was the one that was, the person that committed the crime last season. And a lot of people are worried because the direction that this season is going in, they're going to do the same thing. And let me say that I think part of this show is not about the who did it. It's about just getting everyone's points. What did they think happened? Why did this happen? Things like that. How this changes them. And that clearly is a big part of this. And I will say that I do think the show can be a bit heavy handed at times with its racism and stuff. Definitely, this episode shows that, but that's one of the reasons why I think the show works very well. A lot of this show is just answering small questions, and it's clear that the question of this episode is, can some, man that seems completely manly, can he actually be raped? Can that happen? And yes, it's clear it can, but in this show, they clearly are trying to answer that, and I definitely really like seeing that. But let's just get in this episode because there's a lot to talk about, and definitely there were some very interesting things that came up here. So, as we know, last week we saw Anne. She was going to the press after Leyland Academy, and the police declined to investigate Taylor's rape accusation. And not assassination. I don't know why I just said assassination. But we start here with Leslie, and she's sitting down for an interview about the scandal, and she's trying to do whatever she can to make her school look like they have nothing to do with it, like her school isn't the problem. And it's pretty clear at this point, I think, and I asked this question last week of, does Leslie actually care about her students, or is she just doing it for money? And I'm pretty sure at this point that it's about the reputation. She wants this school to be looked at in the best way possible, and knowing that they already get complaints and people are already, just yelling at them because, of course, they're private schools. Private schools have a certain kind of rep, and this school, Leland, definitely does. She clearly wants Leland to not be put in more danger. And she points out how they met with Anne 3 times, and it's clear that she is putting the blame on Anne here, that this is Anne's fault, that, she didn't have answers for them, and that she's planting seeds of doubt, and she's just very good in this situation. She's clearly trying to spin it on Anne, and I definitely very much like this scene because that they're definitely writing Leslie to be the villain, but you definitely do understand what she's doing. I mean, she's just trying to protect her school, and it definitely makes sense that she's gonna take it out on Anne, and she's gonna say this is Anne's fault, because in many ways it is Anne's fault. Anne shouldn't have called the police. Anne should have, had really thought about what she did, but it's clear she didn't think about what she did, and things are definitely getting really crazy because of that. So in a therapy session, Taylor expresses regret for saying something about what happened, and he talks about if he were a girl, that the rape would be a national story. A sexual assault against a boy just isn't treated as a serious crime. And it's very interesting because just knowing that, I think, is definitely very interesting that we found that out here. And we also get another hint that Anne has suffered tough times. Taylor says that he's afraid to talk to his mother because she's got enough to worry about, and we get this great scene with Anne in a restaurant. This was a very powerful scene here. Lily Taylor really showed the emotion in this scene. She's in a restaurant, and she sees a man playfully get rough with a woman at his table. Anne confronts him first by asking him to take his hand off the woman's neck, then by demanding that he leave, and Anne just looks him straight in the eye, and basically she's very tough. You can tell that she has a very good reason as to why she's doing this, and just seeing how much this one thing has affected her to the point where she can't even see couples get affectionate in public is very interesting, and definitely, I think, really puts a very interesting spin on this. And we then see Terry, and I do want to talk about Terry for a second because a lot of people talked about how I should not have said that she was racist, and a lot of people, someone actually did bring up this theory to me that they don't think it's that she is against, white people. She's simply just against people that aren't rich. And it's clear that she doesn't really know people like that. She's used to the rich lifestyle, and I think, in Terry's eyes, anyone that's not rich is it just not unsuperior to them, that they are just superior to people that aren't rich. And definitely that makes me very interested here, what's going on. And we see that Terry is dispassionately handing a box of Kleenex to a woman she just fired, and it's clear that she's very experienced with this kind of thing. She's fired people before, and she says to the woman that she wishes her luck in all her endeavors. And later the night, she talks about how the woman tried to play the race card on her, asking for help simply because they share an ethnicity, and definitely very interesting stuff that is very important for a later part in Terry's storyline. We'll get into that. But basically, Kevin is then getting handsy and aggressive with Nikki. We see Nikki again. Basically, we see Nikki turns him down. Kevin starts eyeing someone else across the room, and clearly, again, he wants to have sex with her. He wants to have sex, and she's not giving him sex. And he definitely is starting to. I think he's definitely gonna possibly cheat on her. I could definitely see that happening. So later he seeks romantic advice from Michael, and Michael tells him that lesson one is that women you can't win. So it's about figuring out how much you're gonna lose. And I think that was definitely interesting the way that Michael made him look at that. Just the way that that scene was done. Definitely very interesting stuff. And when Anne reads the story in the paper, she's disappointed. She calls the reporter to complain, knowing that sounds very weak, and the paper couldn't print Taylor's name, though, and the details are still very sketchy, and they need more facts. But again, Taylor's not talking, so this is not necessarily the paper's fault. This is Taylor's fault. Taylor clearly does not want to admit what happened. He's very emotional about it, and I still kind of feel like Taylor could have maybe instigated some of this. And yes, I know there are people that are saying I shouldn't say that Taylor instigated rape. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there might not have been a rape for all we know. And yeah, the end of this episode pretty much does confirm there was a rape, but I don't know. There's just a part of me that feels like maybe this wasn't a rape, and maybe Anne is just kind of taking this story completely out of proportion. So we don't really know. So the article does have an impact though on the LaCroix family. Kevin is 18, so he does get named, and Terry gets word of the story as she arrives at work, then moves quickly to call Michael. Kevin's Facebook page is already getting blasted. She wants to pull their son out of school, and it's about perception. That's one of the biggest things. Terry knows it's important to get out in front of the story, and very good stuff here. Regina King really killed it this entire episode. I mean, she's done a great job this season, but this was really the episode where she really started to kill it, I think. So Kevin then meets with his family and their attorney. They ask a lot of questions to him, like, was there alcohol at the party? Was Kevin inebriated? Was he alone with a girl? Did he have sex? And he admits that he did have sex at the party, but it was consensual. And it was also part of a ritual called making the team, which is in which seniors hook up in bathrooms. And it's basically hazing. I mean, you're forced to go in a bathroom, and basically you're now made the team because you've had sex. And the only thing that the LaCroix know for sure, though, is that it's an article about sexual assault that mentions Kevin. And Terry probably thinks that it's vengeance from Val, the girl that she's never trusted, and basically the police haven't made contact yet, but they're probably scared of the LaCroix just like everyone else. And we then see the next few scenes dissect the fall of the article. We see a scene between Eric and his friends, and something very interesting that comes up here. Eric says, I knew we were gonna get in trouble, and he acts very confident, like he wants to take the blame here. He acts like everything's gonna be okay, but then he looks kind of nervous. So Eric and his friends, I'm pretty sure at least, are the people that raped Taylor. I think that Eric and his friends, it definitely makes sense. Like I said last week, they show that Eric is definitely struggling with his sexual identity. So there are a lot of reasons, I think, as to why Eric and his friends, it seems, are being set up as the perpetrators of this rape. That they were the ones that did it and that they raped Taylor. So we also see that Dan calls Kevin to check in on him. What I really liked about the scene with Dan is that it didn't seem like Dan was like Leslie, where she's just trying to cover up the school and she wants to protect her own ass. No, it seems like Dan actually cares about Kevin and he's concerned about him, and Dan is, wants to make sure that Kevin's going to be okay. He doesn't want this to turn out badly for him. And I thought this was a really great scene here. We see Dan's colleague, they reminds him that his job could be in jeopardy. And he says that he's not walking on these kids and he's not going to start accusing them because again, he sees them as as his second family, and just like you don't wrong your family, he doesn't want to wrong them, and it's actually quite sad. I really like the way they're writing Dan, I have to say. I think Dan isn't an underused character. I definitely do want to see a bit more of Dan. I think the way they're writing him is very good though, because in other shows they could have played this as, oh, he's just trying to protect his own ass because he doesn't want to get involved in the situation. But I think it's more of he sees this team as his second family and the camaraderie that they all have, and he doesn't want to ruin that and doesn't want to be the one to jeopardize that. So he's trying to do whatever he can to keep this team the way they are, and it's clear that he can't do that even though he wants to. So at Thurgood Marshall High School, the police then question Evie, which forces her dad to take off time to be by her side. And Evie, of course, was just a witness, but the cops are getting really intense with her to the point where, they're acting like she was the one that raped Taylor. I mean, she doesn't have a clue about the LaCroix, about what's going on there, who haven't even been questioned at all. And Evie reveals a few details from the party. Taylor could stand up, something crazy happened, nobody tried to help him. We also learned that Eric drove them home and he was just off about something. He literally just left them there. And again, it seems like the way they're setting this up that Eric really is the one to blame here. And the way that Evie said it as well, definitely it seems that way. And after a few dinner conversations between Eric's parents, Eric and his brother, and Chris and another teacher, we then see that Steph is very stressed because people already want to remove pictures of their daughter from the Leyland Academy website. And now we kind of know why we're seeing this scene. I mean, again, a lot of this season has been, do parents really know their children? But now that this article has been published, it does make sense that Steph, they want to remove pictures because it's not safe. It's not a good place to be right now. And Dan spins it back to his boys and she calls him on it. And then we learn that Steph likes to smoke down. They used to get high together, but Dan is worried about drug tests, especially with so much attention on the basketball team. We also learned their sex life isn't what it once was, nor what Steph wants it to be. And again, it doesn't seem like a huge deal, but I really think it all goes to Dan's commitment to his team. I mean, it's clear to us, it's clear to me at least, that Dan's number one priority in life is his team. And whatever happens to his team, that's what matters the most to him. And that he's not ever going to let his boys down because they have this camaraderie and he just doesn't want to lose it. And knowing that some of them are going to be graduating soon, that definitely makes me very interested in seeing how Dan would react to that. I mean, I think that's a big part of it as well. Knowing that he doesn't have many more years with them and that there's going to be another group, he's hoping that they have as strong as a bond. He just doesn't want to lose it. It definitely is very sad, I think, the way that they're writing Dan. Definitely really enjoying it, though. So Evie tells Taylor that the cops pulled her out of class. She's furious, and keep in mind, Evie still doesn't know the extent of Taylor's allegation. She just thinks that, he got messed up at a party, and as they talk, Evie encourages Taylor to transfer back to Thurgood Marshall, and then we see Terry and Michael learn more about the accusation. There was no GHB in the victim's bloodstream, so he wasn't drugged. And from this statement, Taylor realizes that a boy accused someone of sexual assault, and finally Terry knows what's going on. And that's something I loved about this whole thing, is that Terry did not know what was going on. She didn't know about this, and now she knows what's going on, and Terry is obviously shocked because, in her mind, boys can't get raped. First of all, that boys don't do that to other boys. Boys fight back, and she doesn't know if this is actually happening, but Michael right away storms out. He gets this really emotional moment with Kevin asking if he did this, and he says that he was with Val, but I do believe Kevin, I have to say. I am believing what Kevin is saying. He seems like a trustworthy kid, and he seems like he cares about Val. That's what it seems like he cares about. He cares about Val. He would not rape someone, and unlike Eric, Kevin is not struggling with sexual identity. Eric is, though, and Eric definitely knows something. If he isn't the one that committed the rape, he definitely knows something. Definitely there's something going on there. So Terry then asks if can he do anything for us? And the way she said that was definitely very interesting. That was the same tone that the woman she fired said. And I think she definitely is realizing the similarity of what's going on there. I think Terry's just realizing that she needs to be a bit more sympathetic. And it's clear that Terry, I don't think, has been through a lot. And I definitely loved seeing that. Very powerful stuff. Very good scene. So the episode then ends with Taylor telling Anne straight out that he wants to do what's right for himself, and he wants to transfer out of Leyland and possibly go to Thurgood Marshall. And the big question is he going to drop these charges? Is he going to transfer out of Leyland? And we then see that Leslie gets the worst news possible. I mean, this is the one thing that she has been dreading all this time. We hear that another person's semen was found on Taylor, as well as traces of blood that indicate forced contact, and that this is officially being investigated as a rape, and definitely Leyland is in jeopardy. So overall, guys, very powerful stuff. I will say this was definitely more of a transitional episode than it should have been, and I would want to see a bit more going on with this rape, but the way they're handling it, I'm really enjoying overall. Definitely really interesting stuff so far. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Definitely, what is going on with Eric? Just the way they're writing Eric, either Eric knows something or he straight up committed the rape. One of those two things happened, definitely. And I'm not going to say it's one of those two. It's either one, because definitely he was part of it. I don't know how, in what capacity, but just the way that they're writing him, I'm pretty sure that Eric was the one that raped Taylor. And it's clear that Taylor was raped at this point. But what is Taylor not telling Anne? I feel like there's a big part of this story that we're not getting in. I'm definitely interested in seeing what that is, because there's definitely something that we're not getting at and we're going to get at. Of course, Evie doesn't know the extent of what really happened with Taylor, because he hasn't even told her, so we'll have to see what happens there. Are we finally going to get Taylor's response as to what actually happened? I'm not really sure. We'll have to see what happens there. Is Taylor going to transfer back to Thurgood Marshall? Like Evie said, that's probably the best thing for him to do, but for whatever reason, he does not want to do that, so we'll have to see if he does. Is Kevin being honest? I trust this kid. I do. I think the things he said sounds legit, and I don't think that he'd lie, but we'll have to see what happens there. Dan's reputation definitely is something that matters to him, as well as Leslie's, but Dan, I think, just wants camaraderie with the team, and he doesn't want to lose that bond, and clearly he's going to, and we'll have to see what happens there, because that definitely is going to be very interesting. But overall, guys, definitely really loving the way that this show is being handled. It's very dark stuff to watch, and definitely very hard, but I'm really enjoying it overall. Let me know what you guys saw of this episode, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for the Shannara Chronicles, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.